Ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, olúwa mi ò dìde ojú ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀.
Hello, and welcome to Aeternum Forge. I am Phantom X, joined as always by Diggs and the legendary Neurotoxin. Hello.
How's
it going?
How's it going indeed? Going well?
Pretty good. We've been, it's been a couple of weeks, but largely my fault that we've not, and we've missed some things, but hopefully we'll cover them tonight, at least in brief. So, where to even begin? Exploits, the client issue, my own personal ramblings. I don't know.
I like to just into.
Well, before everyone's still playing, correct? Right.
Yeah, I'm still playing.
Right. Just making sure. Go ahead.
So, I was wondering what level everybody is actually.
I think I just dinged 46.
No clue.
Yeah. I think I'm 39, and you don't remember Phantom?
No.
It's been that long? Okay.
I just checked Steam before, and I last played October 30th. So I put in like 130 hours, but none in 2 weeks.
All right.
Yeah, so exploits. They were so bad that they had to ban transactions, including banning the market and banning your ability to pay tax on your residence. So, there are also some other things, some PvP exploits, like, from what I understand, if you dragged your window around while you were doing a dodge roll or something, you couldn't be hit until you stopped moving the window and released, and other sorts of stuff that I'm sure if you were running Windows in Linux as a virtual machine, you could have the RAM exposed and do all sorts of other very cheap and naughty things. Because it's client authoritative and not server authoritative. You don't do that with an MMO. No. The oh no meme song and everything. Like that's no. You don't do that. You don't do that. Server always has to be the one, the final say, because you can't trust the clients.
Yeah, but it's their first game, so they don't know that yet.
Well, now, they come back and say that's not the case? At least,
what was that?
Didn't they publicly at least say it is not a client authoritative system? At least publicly. I thought I saw that somewhere in the forums that they came out and said not to worry. But I think the evidence suggests otherwise. But
yeah, it really does. If it isn't, then they certainly make it seem like it is with the way some of those exploits worked. So they fixed those, I believe, and transactions can happen again. And it was just a big stain on AGS. Like that one was really bad. They're not going to be able to live that one down anytime soon. Well, I don't think, when this next update comes out and the Void Gauntlet comes out, it's not going to be like, all right, they're fine. It's like, we remember what happened, and we hope they do better. I really do hope they do better. I hope they're doing better. But
is it going to stop you from playing?
No, because I mostly play it single player, and if people are breaking the market to make things ultra cheap, that's just to my benefit.
Okay.
I mean, if I remember historically, this is sort of a second team, right? So it was a different group largely that started crafting this. And so laying blame on the current group of developers is probably not entirely fair, wouldn't you say?
No, if there's a way that you've designed it that's problematic, you have to change that design before release.
Well, but we've talked about this. This is a bookstore company, right? At its core, it's not a
Yes,
game
but the
studio.
people they hired aren't librarians.
No,
they're game developers.
but they have to report up.
You should know better.
But they have to report up a chain that eventually will take them outside of traditional game studio executives, I imagine.
All of that, plus, as you're saying, Phantom, it started with an original team, and the secondary team is trying to move away from what was originally crafted, and then at some point you have to release. And they aren't in charge of when they have to release. So they're doing the best. The team that we currently have is doing the best they can to shift away from what originally started. But, it still affects those people who are playing the game. And they're going to have opinions about that. I'm not sure. Well, I guess we can start to move into numbers, because what really matters is how many people continue playing the game while these things are occurring, and the team tries to make adjustments. So, Phantom, you were saying something about peaks and valleys.
Oh yeah. So when you look at Steam charts, I like numbers, so it's just interesting to watch. They peaked at like just over 900,000 initially. It's super weird when you look at the overall graph, because initially it's like this peak and a slow decline, and then you start getting all this and all that early stuff was like server, like pop issues, and so you had a much more normal curve. But what used to be, I think I closed it actually, but it used to be, they have this sort of, when you look at the Steam charts, it's constant peak and valley. Weirdly, the peak starts at 2 or 3 p.m. from Steam charts. I don't know if that's just how it's all gathered from Steam. I don't know. It's weird timing to me. But what used to be the valley, or the low end of their pop, is now their high end. Actually, the high end is even less. When you look at their overall drop in numbers, I think their last 24-hour peak. I mean, it's not bad numbers, right? So just under 250,000 people. So I mean, for an MMO, when you look like a BDO and some other things, those are good numbers.
250,000 is, but A, how many of them are bots, and B, how many of them are whales? Like, how many of them are actually putting money into the system or just being part of the content of the game?
Well, and it's a slow decline, so it also does not seem, when I've looked at it, it doesn't seem like, there was all of this exploited stuff reported and all this, client stuff, and then all of a sudden they dropped. It was already slowly dropping, and there really doesn't seem to be much of a change from that. It's just sort of this natural, steady drop off, which could be for a variety of reasons. But it's not plateauing. It's still dropping off over time. So I'm curious to see where it ends up. And I think a lot of different things. And when I see that sort of slow and steady change, I think there's just not enough to do. Basically, people play it and then they get bored, and then they move on. That's sort of my interpretation. I think you're right, Nero, that probably a lot of the people that are still left are the ones spending money. So I don't know that Amazon necessarily is going to care too much if they lost 500,000 people, if those 500,000 were not the ones that were buying stuff in the cash shop.
Right. At this point, I think every new sale is more important than every existing player who plays hardcore but doesn't spend any money on the system.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Every game drops off, but we'll see where they end up bottoming. But yeah, you're right. So the server merges will be coming probably, I imagine, fairly soon. They clearly don't need what they expanded out to. Although as long as it took to do stuff like transfers, I'm curious to see how long it takes to get merges down.
And then, Phantom, you said you haven't played since October 30th, which seems to mean that's due to lack of interest. What would get you possibly interested in playing again, other than the Void Gauntlet?
I mean, not to be harsh, but it's not fun for me. It's just not a game for me, basically.
And why not?
I mean, it's not really an RPG. I mean,
Very good.
essentially, I mean, it's all combat, and I am sure that the people that are still playing are having fun. I have no doubt about that. For me, it's well, there's two components. Big one is crafting, but the other is just even quests and stuff. It's I hate dailies, right? So that's something that I just grew to absolutely hate in World of Warcraft was dailies, and then they turn into world quests, which is just dailies repackaged.
Right.
And so now when I get to, I go to the next area and it's just, okay, you do some initial story quests and there's some things that pop by and that's cool. You get to learn a little bit more, but then the bulk of it is just doing, faction stuff. It's just constant going to the same area, collecting stuff, coming back, killing stuff, coming back. I was wanting more crafting anyways, but this game's clearly not meant for crafters at all. What pulled me in was this
There's
idea.
a ton of crafting.
Yeah, but it's not developed for crafters. So, what pulled me in was this idea of endless progression of crafting, or endless crafting, I think is what they called it, something like that. Just endless crafting progression, which essentially just means there's so much random chance in it, you could never craft everything there is to craft. So it is endless, but.
I think it's endless.
That's like a whole nother episode, but.
It's a whole grind. It's an endless grind. But yeah,
I still think the core is not bad, right? So the core of what they have going, I think could grow into something pretty cool. But how long that takes, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the core, some of the core components of harvesting, harvesting itself is sort of a fun experience initially. It gets old. I found that as well. I was this person that wouldn't go back unless my bags were full. And I would intentionally go out of my way to make sure they were. And towards the last few days I was playing, I was just passing stuff up. So, I can go on harvesting and crafting, but
I actually have been mostly okay with the crafting system, except I really don't like grinding by making pieces of equipment that I know I'm going to salvage or maybe sell if they're actually worth anything. It's one of those things that just every game has that problem, and it just never feels good. Who needs one iron gauntlet, or who needs 50 iron gauntlets? They're just an arbitrary item that somebody's going to have for a moment and then get something better very quickly after. And so or a steel gauntlet or a star metal gauntlet, like it doesn't matter. It's going to be grown out of very quickly. And so for me to sit there and get tier 3 resources and piles of tier 1 resources and just make the cheapest, crappiest version of all of the equipment that is the best resource to experience ratio, that stuff is really annoying.
Mm-hmm.
It does feel better when there's a system that you kind of grow naturally, because there's a lot of little things to do along the way, like cooking, for example, or even Arcana have that sort of feeling. But it isn't done as much with crafting, and I don't know how in the nitty gritty. Like one of the things that you'll make is stacks of silver chains or gold chains and gold settings and platinum
jewelry
bands.
crafting.
Yes, for jewelry crafting, and you'll be able to increase or decrease the target quality of the item you're crafting based on what sort of fittings. For me, I know that wouldn't stack, but I don't think stacking is really a problem. Every time you craft one of those items, that it actually comes out with a quality so you can take your better quality ones and use them for the things that you're like really trying to max out and put Azoth into, and any other sort of enhancements.
Yeah, I mean, though, I think I don't know how much you would care about jewelry crafting, but you make great bags.
Yes, I
Um,
do.
and I will be interested at some point in getting some of the better bags. So I think if you're playing with a couple of other people, a small group of people who are going to be your company, um, that could be some of the fun. Like I loved making tools for you and Polaris Terradin. That was great, uh, and and that's what I would want to use and move that into RP at some point. Um, those little idiosyncrasies that each character might be into. I think the last thing I saw was that Polaris was into furniture.
Furniture,
And not
yes.
that I have a house yet, but if I get a house, then maybe I would want to get some furniture there. Um, and again, those are little. I forgot there was something else that. Oh, Warhammer. Like, focusing on her use of the Warhammer. We ran a dungeon a week ago. Was it last week that we ran
Sounds
um,
about right.
Amaran Temple, which was a lot of fun.
Or maybe
Um,
2 weeks ago, but not too long ago.
yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I see ways to kind of move that into little semi mini RP sessions. But some of it is that we're playing a lot solo. Um, and I mean, again, the crafting I think is endless, but maybe not in a good way. You could just keep making the same crap load of the same thing over and over again and
It's
endlessly.
endless because you could never farm enough crap to make everything. I mean, random chance says you won't.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to make everything. I'm just trying to get up to the next tier. But to do
I
that,
think,
I'm making like 100
like
of
it's a. I think I
basically
said
one item.
it's like a gotcha game without money. Like
The what
your cost is in your components.
The one thing that does help out with armor crafting and weaponsmithing is the town board quests give a lot of points for very minimal resources. So if you just hit all of those every time, you're going to get your skill up. I've only been hitting the weapon crafting town boards, and I went from 5 to about 55 in the matter of maybe about 5 or 6 levels.
Hmm.
Some of the places I've been though, like there's hardly like gosh, where was I? Everfall when I last logged off, and in the whatever had 3 things to do on the board, like that was it. None of which were interesting to me. So
Yeah, no, I get that. And honestly, if you don't want to do town boards and syndicate dailies, don't do them. I
but then
usually
do what? Then what? What do you do then?
all of the quests. I've basically gone quest to quest to quest through every zone, even if I'm over leveled for it, so that way I can actually learn about like the story and the nuances and what's going on with things.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, when I'm playing the game, I'm still learning about the game. So I didn't play the alpha. I didn't play much of the beta. I think I played maybe a week of the beta. So I'm still learning things about the game, and some of the stuff that I like is I think Nero gave me some engineering food. Um,
Yeah.
2 weeks ago or so, and so then I started gathering some. I think is that squash? Is that like roasted squash or something like that? So I started going out to look for squash, going out to look for corn, barley, going out to look for a place to gather barley. So there's specific things that I'm looking for. One of the things that I've been working on the last week was gathering fur because I want to move up to making I don't know, fur rugged armor or something like that. And fur is a rare resource. I've been gathering the fur from the bison near Jonas, um, and my character is kind of African, whatever that might be in this world, and is like a fur trapper, skinner, or armor smith, or whatever with fur. So it's fun to take my spear and go out chasing bison, and doesn't matter that it's a rare drop from the bison. I just go out and spear the bison, and I feel like that's a little bit of the role playing for me. And again, we could do like a little 20-minute session of us fishing near Jonas, and then me saying, "Hey, I'm going to go out and get some bison," and we could talk about the other type of resources that are in the area, like warm petal cap, which goes into making potions. I mean, there's stuff that you could do that kind of keep me interested. But I think if you're just going to focus on uh, raising crafting levels, yeah, that would get boring pretty easily. Because I wish there was still, I don't know, it's weird. In some ways, there is a variety of things to craft, but it seems like there's not enough of a variety. Like we need tons more things, and tons more things that we might use from time to time, other than, I don't know, different types of engineering food, which, or different types of crafting food, which I think most people don't really focus on anyway.
I certainly hope they would. That's a very important item. Like that's one of the things that really pushes the quality up easily. Oh
Yeah, I
well.
mean, it depends on how you do that, how many you're going to make, and all kinds of stuff. But also how fast you're trying to level. So for me, I'm not necessarily trying to hit 60 very quickly, and if I really wanted to do super quality, there's time for that down the road once I hit level 60. Really, um, I'm mostly crafting stuff not for the best levels. Mostly, I'm just crafting in order to level. Is a lot of the crafting that I do. But um, yeah, I mean, different people are playing for different reasons. So
I want to
Yeah.
get back to this discussion on the client and all of the exploits that occurred. One thought is just sort of general discussion. The other, though, I saw that they're going to allow, because we talk about all the exploits and all those concerns, but I think it's Overwolf has a map that is a third-party sort of add-on that is currently available for New World.
I
And
think I saw some kind of add-on.
right, and Amazon has come out and said they're going to allow it for now, like they're okay with it, which seems very strange considering all of the issues they've had with cheaters and people who exploit things, that they're going to allow. Okay,
Oh.
Terradin, so she just, okay, so that must have been recent that they said no more. That seemed like a very odd decision to allow a third party's access to that sort of stuff and not be a bannable offense. I mean, I'm all for add-ons. That's not trying to go that way with it, but I wish Ashes would have add-ons. But it seemed bizarre that they would have that decision. It was almost like we just don't have time to deal with this, so we're just not for now.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of add-ons, but at the same time, I do use the that website that shows us where resources are. So I don't know if it's much different doing it outside of the game or inside of the game. Although probably doing it inside of the game opens up for cheaters and bots and all that stuff. But
And the other part to this is they kept banning people kind of in waves. And I'm curious your guys' thoughts, like how far you take this. So right, so they have these individual item and gold dupers, that makes sense to ban them. But then when they stop the gold trade, right? Then the next thing was that the companies could start projects in their town and like not pay for it and get the money back like in full. So you could have entire guilds or companies going out and making tons of coin. So like I'm curious how far you take the banning idea. I don't think I heard of any, mass groups, from companies being like kicked out of the game. But I'm curious your thoughts. Like, if you're going to do it to an individual person, but then you have, a whole company that says, hey, we could very easily make a ton of money right now, and they do it. And you have multiple companies. Like, do you go the step of banning, like, a company of 50 people? Or slap them on the hand and say you get a warning?
Yeah, so what if some of the exploits did people get banned for the Sacred Ground one where you crouch and get immediately healed? Did they just fix it quickly enough that wasn't a problem?
I don't think they would ban people for that. I don't think people would even be slapped on the wrist. I think that's one of those, oh, our bad, well, please don't use it, and if you do, don't get used to it because we're going to fix it. And then they fixed it.
Okay.
Because I'm sure it was probably an easy fix.
So what were some of the other bans? There was a couple others, but I don't remember what they were.
I think the one where you, the PvP exploits, like the one with the dragging of the screen, and there are, I think, some other PvP related exploits.
There was gold duping, right?
Yeah.
Gold duping one. Okay. Yeah, money exploits is what Immaculate Deception is saying. Yeah. But you kind of know, right, that you're exploiting, and I don't know, at this point in gaming, you should know that exploits are bannable offenses, right?
Well, Aeternum's comments on this, I thought this was funny because there's also a forum post where they actually kind of come out and try to define, like, where's the line? It's like, people know where that line is. I don't know why you're, just, you're either going to let them or you're not. I don't know how else. You either kick them out or you let them, keep doing what they're going to do. Because it was like, well, if you find an unintended issue, like a bug, and you spawn, I think the example they gave was that you found a way to trigger, something that's supposed to spawn, I don't know, once every hour, but you found a way through a series of actions to trigger it every 5 minutes. And the sort of definition that was given is if you do that once, and you kill the mob and you move on, that's fine. But if you then go back and keep doing it over and over, that is an exploit. That is exploitative in nature, and so then they would look at getting you either just temporary banned or perma-banned. But I thought it was just funny that they even had to come out and say that, because people know what it is. I don't know. Come on. If you have to ask, am I exploiting the system? You're probably exploiting the system. So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I like some of the
bans,
anti-exploitation that they attempted, where players were putting their campsite down, where farmers were trying to just sit there and keep farming an area. So they effectively kind of took a stand against the bot farmers, basically.
But wasn't that another issue? I've not gone and checked back up on this, that it really does not matter if you get banned, because if you use family share on Steam, did they change it?
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple of weeks ago, they did that, and it's like, okay, well then, if you want to play more, you gotta buy the client again, jerks.
Okay.
So,
because that was
if people had a bunch of alt accounts, now they're basically restricted to, I guess, just one.
Yeah, but that's good, because that came about at all like that was a bad week for Amazon. Like, this whole tweet storms about being a client authoritative, and then you have all these exploits, and then on top of that, there was like the last straw was like, oh well, if you just use family share, you can create a new. You get banned, you just unban yourself, go back in.
Yeah, it was something that was mentioned early, and I expressed my opinion that, hey, I don't know about this. Seems like a bad idea. And again, AGS, maybe they don't have the right what-fors and people with the right permissions asking the right people the right questions, because if you just work with your Steam rep or find someone on the team that's been involved with like the launch of an indie game and has gone through all the steps with Steam already, you just contact your rep and they'll help you out with all that stuff, and they can help you turn off family share real easy. So the fact that they didn't do it pre-launch, that they didn't coordinate with Steam and just be like, yo dog, whoever it is that I'm working with here, and you'll probably know their name by that point, especially Amazon, I'm sure, has one dedicated individual at Steam that works directly with them. You just work with them with that stuff and they'll take care of it. I don't see why and that's the thing, is it just struck me as odd from the beginning that it's going to be a Steam only, or at least initially a Steam only release, that they aren't going to have their own login system and everything on top of that necessarily. Because I would think you would do it based on an email, maybe a phone number, rather than doing it based on your Steam account. So even the format of just using Steam to authorize the player, if they've got the license for it and they're not using family share, like, that still strikes me as odd, because it means they're kind of stuck with Steam and maybe they can use another platform, but it seems like it might be that much harder for them to extract either of those into a platform neutral PC.
Well, they had their own. Alpha was not under Steam.
Oh, I know.
I mean, they had something developed or developing where they could have just used their own whatever.
But they decided against it, and now they're using Steam.
Oh, they're saying Alpha was.
No, I mean, I have the Amazon.
Alpha was interesting.
I might have been under both. I still have the Amazon downloader on my computer. I'm pretty sure from when I very first was in Alpha, but because I know it wasn't through Steam entirely. But then they're going to do the public test servers, which they announced too, which I find interesting, because actually this was at a time, I just had probably a week or two ago was reading a post. Actually, it was on Pantheon. They were talking to one of their people. I don't think it was a developer. It might have been a CS person. I'm not sure, a QA person. But they were asked a question about, will you have a public test room? And the answer was basically maybe, but probably not, because people don't play on them. Therefore, they're kind of pointless to do. They were still pushing out bugs, not because people were finding them and they were fixing them in these public test clients, but because nobody really, who wants to spend all their time in a test world. So I'm curious to see how that. I never had thought of it that way, actually. When I heard that from more of a like QA person, like, it's like, oh, that's interesting. I never would have thought that they were actually kind of somewhat useless and really getting trying to find big bugs.
I think
all depends on how active your audience is.
I think especially for New World, it would be problematic because people are already talking about burnout just from having played the alphas and betas, and that's the quickest way to burn out, is to play on the public test server and then have to do everything over again, on the regular server. But that being said, I want to ask you guys about how excited I guess Phantom's not excited at all. How excited you are about the Void Gauntlet? Like, okay.
I know people are, because there's
until I see it, until I play with it, I won't really know.
I don't know. I know a lot of people we chat with on Discord are super excited about it. So, okay. I'm in a phase of time where if it's not like a really good role playing game, like so what I've been substituting is Pillars of Eternity instead. The last couple weeks, so like if it's just not a really sound actual MMORPG, I really just want to be in a world where I craft. So that's why I'm just not a big combat focused anymore. I mean, I'm certainly not PvPer.
Yeah.
But I know people seem very excited about the about the Void Gauntlet. So good for them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I noticed. I was thinking it was fairly interesting that I would see you through Discord or Steam that you were playing Pillars of Eternity, and I was like, "Oh, no new world, no new world." That's kind of interesting. Um, so yeah, I guess
I mean,
just
we're 38 minutes in. Otherwise, I would just go straight into talking about crafting. We can do that next time.
hmm um, yeah. I don't know. I'm thinking Immaculate Deception is thinking about doing Void and Ice. Okay. Void Gauntlet is fast, and that's fun for a lot of players. Yeah, fast would be helpful. I can see that.
So I'm curious what the people who liked not PvP but do like PvE, because I think there's only what 6 expeditions, right? Essentially 6 dungeons right now.
Maybe.
I think that
Maybe.
I think that's all there
Probably.
is. That seems, I just wonder what they do. Like, how do you experience PvE right after you kind of pass through level 60 in your quest? Like, there's not even this big range of dungeons necessarily to experience yet. So,
Um,
I would definitely
I
want to
don't
be on some form of RP server by then, I think.
know. I honestly at this point I'm just going through the story, and once I've played through all the story content and I've done all the quests, if I feel like there's nothing else for me to do, then it's time for me to log off and see, hope if they do an expansion. But
Yeah, and I'm still kind of feeling like I wish there was more I could do, maybe as a solo
yeah,
player. To I don't know if I need to completely close off the portals, but at least to minimize their spread to some degree. And I did read something earlier last week about one of the reasons for the merges is that there's not enough people closing portals, so they just start overrunning some of those low pop servers. Um, I
I
think it's
hated
due to
that.
low pop. hmm Um, one of the things that I was very disappointed about when we went through Armin Temple together last week or whenever it was is uh, that the Heartstone doesn't help you. Like I thought the whole point just going through the Jonas quest, I was thinking that the Heartstone would actually help give you some defense against the uh, corruption from portals. But it seems like it's just flavor text basically and doesn't actually do anything for you. And I would like to be getting a little bit more protection or building up to getting more protection other than just from, I guess you're supposed to make corruption potions. I don't know. Um,
well, if they really wanted, they could make leveling up your Hearthstone an alternative progression path in an expansion, and now you've got a separate set of powers or corruption related abilities that you weren't able to have before, and that you have to level up to a certain point before you can go into the all corrupted all the time territory where you've got to continue gameplay.
yeah, I mean, Terradin saying Heart Gem has always been a quest item, but it seems like the quest item doesn't do anything. That's my point. It's in
Yeah,
the quest, but
but no,
I'm
that's
yeah,
what I'm saying though, is that it could just be something that one of the many loose threads that they could base an entire expansion on, add an entire new system around.
I guess. But just with all the corruption portals that open up, it just should be part of your progression.
I
I mean,
agree.
because it's a great quest, right? And you start doing this thing, and you go up and you have your movie that shows you getting your staff or whatever, and then I don't know, doesn't do anything. I mean, that's what's um, and I guess that's not the way I like to role play. I like the the role play that I do to have some impact, which is why, there's this kind of, and I don't even know what it is. What did I used to call it? I forget the name that I had for it. RP to me, where they actually have a theater RP is what I think I called it, where you're just reenacting stuff that the DM is coming up with or the game master is coming up with. But, you know, they say, Neuro picks up an apple, but there's no apple for you to pick up. Like that is not the RP that I want to do. I actually want to be able to pick up an apple and mostly have it do something. Um, so,
And that's why I hate VR.
mm,
Because they use all these static assets that you can't interact with. Especially in VR, every door and every drawer and every cabinet you make that doesn't open further infuriates the player. This isn't real life. This isn't immersive. This is dumb. Why can't I open things?
Yeah. That's not how AGS designed things, but they probably should have. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to comment on, just I don't want to be too negative. I mean, I'm happy people enjoy it. It's just not for me. I think I can say that rationally. What drove me, the other thing that drove me crazy, and this gets back to the communication that's been talked about in chat in here, was that like a week or two ago, through the New World Creator Program, like the Creator Program for New World sent out a batch of beta keys for Lost Ark, saying, hey, go check this out. Go be a content creator for Lost Ark. I'm like, wait a minute. You're losing tons of players. You have all kinds of exploits. People are really trying hard to stick with you, but I understand you're publishing the game. But can't you find a different listserv to send that, like a different way to send that out than under the creator banner for New World? That's just so weird. Like, I don't know who thought that was a good idea. Like, we're already losing people, so let's push our creators even further away so that we get less exposure. Like, I assume that's because that's probably the easiest and largest, one of the easiest email databases they probably have, or whatever, to find. There's everyone that signed up for that, but or maybe it's not, but it was a number that made sense for the number of beta keys they wanted to send out. I don't know. It just seems super weird. That game's terrible too, but it's.
Maybe that's why, because nobody wants to play it.
Just so weird. I don't understand some of what they do, but okay.
Yeah, no, that was a kind of a weird one. I don't know if their logic is, well, let's get content creators more endeared to us with that game, and then once that game starts to get stale, we'll hopefully have the expansion ready for New World again, and then we'll just throw that one back out at them. It's like, this game, isometric view giving you the blues, come out to New World.
Or they pretty much thrown in the towel with creating their own stuff, and they're just now going to start looking at being a publisher.
Suppose.
Maybe New World was just the stepping stone into getting enough eyes to do that. So.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if they're going to do anything else with AGS, it would be having the next team use O3DE and try to use all of its features and what fors.
Yeah,
Open 3D engine.
Can't reveal your source. I know. A lot coming. We all get promised shit from time to time. Let's see what happens. I'm not going to uninstall the game, but I just have no personal reason to log in. So.
Yeah. Well, we might fix that. I do want to do a RP session starts with us fishing. What kind of fishing pole do you have, by the way, Phantom?
Whatever my max level allows me to have, which is
Okay.
something that we can talk about later when we talk about crafting.
Because I have a weird wood fishing
He's
pole.
not going to
So,
be able to use that
No,
for
not yet.
another.
What's the one below? The whatever's below that.
okay.
I think I actually purchased one. I've basically purchased everything up, all the tiers of stuff that I want, because the economy has also been so screwed up that you can get stuff for super cheap.
Yeah.
So I mean, I actually have a lot of the things I'll need eventually, maybe in a year. I don't know.
Okay.
Although by then the expansions will be out and the levels will get increased, because levels don't mean anything. So
Yeah. Okay. So if we're not talking about crafting, what else do we want to talk about today?
I think
I heard you moved on from, where were you last? Did you move on from
I moved on from Brightwood.
Brightwood,
Yeah, and
and
I'm
you're
on
headed
the
into?
Weaver's Fen now.
Hmm. And did you
And
actually go in and do a couple things, or
oh, I'm probably more than halfway through it already.
good? And how is
It's
it?
it's pretty good. I actually really like the story for or the kind of conclusion of the local storyline for Brightwood or whatever. It's I guess I don't know if anybody's actually going to have it be spoiled if I mention it, but if you do, turn off your ears for about 15 seconds here. So the resolution with that one is basically, oh hey, the Inquisition ground up the bones of the lost and used it in the soil, and that's why all the plants are messed up, because the azoth from the bones makes the plants regenerate fast and grow all nice, but it cursed the land, and they probably should have thought better about that. And then I think the other one from that area is kind of learning that the ancients might be millions of years old.
Mm. Well, I
So,
definitely love the atmosphere of Brightwood. I kind of liked, I'm forgetting the name now, but it's basically the Sleepy Hollow area near First Light. Um, so moving into Brightwood and getting that kind of creepy
oh, you mean
atmosphere.
Sleepy Tallow?
Sleepy Tallow, yes. Um, I kind of like the atmosphere there, and I really loved the moving into Brightwood and the filters kind of coming in and making it seem like it's foggy, creepy, foresty, wooded area. I like the atmosphere, and the new mobs in that area were kind of cool. Um, so I've started a little bit in there. I haven't done too many of the too much of the quest line there, but looking forward to that. I think because I'm 39. And what is that, 35 to 45 or 35
hmm
to something like that?
Yeah, 35 to 45.
Hmm. So, I hear from one of our friends, they're no fan of the Sleepy Tallow name,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I don't know. It's a pun on Sleepy Hollow, so that's fine. It's
yeah.
reminiscent of the name. It's okay.
They could have done something else, but
Weaver's
sure.
Fen is 35 plus. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's 35 to 45.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of the things that's real important about Weaver's Fen, though, is the first place that you're really going to be able to find a lot of the animals that give thick hide.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah.
And that's kind of a big deal, because you don't really get it below that area, and it's kind of a problem. It's one of the reasons why it's so much easier to level and craft silk things, and probably even star metal things, long before rugged, unless you have a market that's just chock full of thick hide, which it might be.
But
And then you can just buy it up and get it going.
I feel like I'm not ready for thick hide before level 40. I'm not ready for level. I'm not. I don't think I'm ready for thick hide wherever I am right now. So, what level do you think you should be ready for thick hide?
It's in the same range as star metal and silk. So,
Well, but I'm just
35
sitting around.
plus.
Okay, I'm still well, but then you're getting the 40. I don't know that 35 is much of a difference between 40 plus, but um, yeah, I mean it's all I can do just to. By the time I do star metal and do silkwood, um, I mean I'm basically level 40 and about to start on thick hide anyway. So I don't know.
I'm almost up to 200 skinning. It's been the easiest one because I pretty much skin everything I kill throughout the game.
Hmm.
And I think I had, what was that? I should probably be hitting some stone so I can actually make the lodestone bricks, because you're not really crafting, you're kind of transmuting things.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, I've picked up some lodestone, but I don't really know what I'm supposed to do with it. I haven't been doing a lot of stone cutting in
Yeah,
general. So
you have to cut it from stone bricks, I believe. You get stone bricks and the lodestone, and I guess that'd be sandpaper, and that's how you can make the lodestone bricks.
yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what you do with them. What do you use them for?
We give them to Pull so she can make things with lodestone when she gets that
Furniture.
far in furniture. Yep. That's about all it's used for, I think.
Okay, I had
Except
no clue.
maybe town quests every now and then will ask for lodestone or lodestone bricks.
Okay.
Another thing that would bring me back. Sorry, you guys are talking about
Hmm.
playing, and I'm
No,
not
I
done
want to
playing.
hear that. I want to hear that.
I mentioned this in chat. I really think they're onto something with fishing. If they could just add some more into that and pull from other games that have fairly decent fishing, would be sort of a tremendous. I think it could be a tremendous experience. So not just salt versus freshwater, but actually different fish in different areas, different depths, much more wide variety. Broader leaderboards, collection quests. I mean, there's all kinds of ways. Final Fantasy 14 has like a really well thought out fishing system. It's just I can't stand a lot of the other parts of the game. Like if they could pull elements of that, pull elements of BDO, sort of what you break the fish down into, rather than just fish fillets. If you can do other things with them, I mean, there's just a lot of different. If they add to that, it would be because they have the casting system down really well. So
And how consistent are you with using specific kinds of bait to
I mean,
get
that's part of it.
the
They
kinds
need
of?
do more with
Mhm.
bait, make bait easier to craft, different kinds. I mean, there's just tons. There's a lot they could add to it, and the
Make
base.
models for all the fish.
Yes.
Oh, because I feel like I've got tons of bait. I think, and different kinds of bait, but I don't know that it's going to help me catch specific types of fish, which is what I wanted to
Well,
do.
and
It seems
initially,
Your
like it
rod
would
might
still be
give you more.
RNG.
Your rod might give you more specificity than the bait. Like if you've got something with daycaster 2 or 3 on it, and a specific type of shallow or deep water improvement.
Mm.
Yeah, you'll be catching stuff much better with that. And then yeah, you can use bait, and you can use fishing skill food and fishing skill equipment that you own.
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, but fleshing out the equipment, yeah, different types of equipment to improve skills. I would love to have boats for fishing, but since we can't even
just
swim, I doubt that's going to
all right.
happen.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I have all this bait. Again, I would want the bait to do something. Like,
Well,
It does something, but we don't really get to perceive like how it changes the odds on what you're going to be able to catch, what the range of
Right.
things is.
right, but that's what my point
Yeah,
is.
I mean, because really the only noticeable thing is the
They bite faster.
Yeah, that's the main thing you notice. Actually, I threw out like 100 casts per bait when I was playing my 130 hours and kind of kept track. And there is improvement. You know, the bait does what it's supposed to, but not by a lot.
Okay.
Empty Stunner says that's why I tend to agree with Phantom X that New World was more about making an industry splash for reasons as opposed to creating a long-term player base and game. Many well-done elements in designing the world, combat, and crafting, but so many problems in design as far as making players feel they need to rush through content, not letting all players meaningfully contribute to town faction defense, faction gear often not being better than loot drops, and lack of endgame foresight. Yeah, there's lots of great ideas, but again, the game that they thought they wanted in the beginning, where I think they thought that players would be the content, so they wouldn't need all this other stuff. I mean, I think that's the big problem. They originally thought
The rushing through content, so that's, we can save again a more detailed analysis for a crafting episode maybe next week. But I think general consensus with anyone that's played, it makes much more sense if you want to craft to just rush to level 60 and then go backwards and start working on harvesting. Like that is clearly the easiest way to go about doing that.
Yeah, max out, get the best tools you possibly can, and have gigantor bags, and yeah, it's not a problem at all. You're just gonna jam through it.
I mean, but back to the fishing, you know, I want to have...
Teradin says she can't stand that form, and I probably tend to agree, and I can see why it's easiest, but yeah, I mean, from a player perspective, I mean, unless you really want to rush to end game, that's not a fun way to go about things. Go ahead.
But
Sorry.
I was just the last thing with fishing. You know, I mean, the biggest, well, two things. So when you mentioned baits, one thing that kind of initially thought was kind of neat, but started to get a little bit on my nerves was, you know, when you catch certain fish, say in freshwater, you can get bait for saltwater and vice versa, which is kind of neat. But at the same time, if I'm actively fishing in a saltwater environment, I don't really want bait for a freshwater environment.
Right.
Like I don't understand the. Initially, it was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. It's like, oh no, this is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you know, that we talk about reasons for exploration, and you know, you have quests that send you places. But I want a reason to go to a lake somewhere far away, right? Like, I want to go catch a specific fish there. I mean, that's just it could be much more than just simple fishing. But, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah,
All
I
right.
think that's the way I feel about a lot of things in the game. I wish that it was more clear and I didn't have to go to a outside website to figure out where to go for barley or where to go for corn or where to go for, you know, specific types of things. And I think that would be the same thing with fish. I wish there would be quests that say, hey, go here and get this type of fish, or go here and get, I mean, because we have that, we talked about it before, we have that quest that tells you where to go for barley, but then once that quest is over, you can't get barley. You can't get barley there anymore, which is ridiculous.
So some quick ones that I think we'll probably talk about the results of next time. One, they're going to make all of the markets accessible from everywhere. They're going
What
to...
does that mean? Wait, what does that mean?
From what I understand, they're going to make it that there is one global market and there's no longer individual settlement-based markets.
So again, why do we have factions?
The factions are dumb. They're actually the dumbest part of the game. I'm sorry, they are. Really
No,
are.
I'm saying I don't know what the purpose of the factions are either.
Yeah.
Flavor text. Go ahead.
Yeah, no more local markets. So that's going to happen. Sheridan also brought to my attention the issue that Arcana is going to be much harder to level up. There's going to be intermediary steps, and it's unclear whether the final result is going to use the same resources and the same get the same amount of experience in the system right now. But
And is that going to be in the Tuesday update?
I think so. So that other crafting systems are gonna maybe get jostled around a little bit. I don't know if it's gonna be a good thing or if it's gonna be a bad thing. So those are gonna be happening. What else? I feel like there's one other like really gigantic thing that they're changing that we didn't really talk about. Market.
ID. You're right. That's a curious question. Why they didn't just sort of call this early access? That why they went through because so many games no longer go the traditional. Oh, this is alpha. Oh, this is beta. Oh, we're released. Like they all just sort of. Well, I guess many go alpha beta, but then they just go from beta like early access. They don't even necessarily call it released.
Yeah.
Maybe it's bonus related. I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry.
No,
I think
I was going to say the same thing. I was going to mention that. It's a great point, but it's something I need to think about more. So go ahead.
I think that might have been it. Things are coming on the horizon, so get your farming in if you're going to get that skill up. Hopefully what they come out with is going to be better than what they have right now, but only time will tell.
That changes. It's just such there are people that enjoy going to different markets, seeing what they can buy and sell. Like that, you're just removing a chunk of some actual fun for some people. Anyway,
maybe.
I was always curious what I would go, place to place. Like I'd check. Actually, that's one thing I just never really talked about it. I'd check the market because I was curious. What's what here?
Yeah, and it makes sense. And there is some sort of that. Like you'll be able to find stacks and stacks of thick hide for dirt cheap up in the northern areas, even probably iron hide. So you can get the things if you need that. All the various different ores, depending on where you're at, will be, more or less expensive. So it's kind of weird, doing the merge. There'll be some benefit for some people and some loss for others. I think buyers are going to be getting an advantage and sellers are going to be getting the shaft. But I'm mostly a buyer, so I'm kind of fine with that.
ID also says, go ahead.
I should also say that when I say sellers, I mean raw resource sellers. I think for people that make items that are just plain good, like you make a lot of blue items with 2 attributes or a gem slot, that's the sort of thing that now that the markets are open everywhere, you can make one of those anywhere in the world and put it on the market. And there's a decent chance that if it's the sort of thing that makes sense for someone to use, they're going to buy it. Like if you make a great axe that's got strength as an attribute, chain lightning or whatever on hit, and a gem slot, it's a blue item, that thing's going to sell for a pretty decent amount. Someone's going to buy it. For someone, that's their new badass weapon.
Yeah, but how many blues do you need to make to get that?
You can
1 in 100,000.
Well, you're going to be grinding items to make get your skill up anyway.
Crafting
so
episode,
you'll come across them. Yes, we'll do a crafting episode. We'll see. That's what I'm saying. We'll check up on these things on the next one, see how the market and the changes with crafting and all this stuff is going to be in the next one.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Crafting episode is next.
All right.
Sorry, I'm typing that it's 1 in 126,000 chance to get a specific item.
Oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah, it is. Did the math.
Okay.
Anyways, all right. Well, yeah, I could go on. I got a list of shit here about crafting, so we'll do that next time. So,
All right.
yeah, maybe I'll try to play a little bit. We'll see.
Well, you have
Yeah.
to play with us before you give up.
Haven't given
We
up.
have to at least.
It's just
We have to run one dungeon together at least.
it's installed. It's just waiting for some reason to actually push play. So.
I know you've also been super busy the past,
Oh, yeah.
2-3 weeks.
I mean,
so there's that too.
To be fair, all not just that, all together in my professional life, I mean that plays a part of it. Like I only have a small amount of time, so I'm making sure it's something that I actually enjoy. That I play gaming. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, everyone, thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll be back. Hopefully, yeah. Well, I'll commit to next week. We'll see if I can hold. I hear if you say things publicly, you're more inclined to do them. So we'll be here next week talking about crafting.
Sounds
Nice.
good.
All right. See you.
All right. Later, folks.